China breaching every article in Genocide Convention, says legal report on Uyghurs.
Okay, we clapped because there's a report on it now and it's tackling this bad event. No, we're not clapping because of the... Yeah, okay, go on. Just clarifying that. We're not clapping for genocide, okay? So go on.
In Xinjiang, China. According to a landmark legal report published by a non-partisan US-based think tank, the treatment of Uighur Muslims in Xinjiang by the Chinese government has breached every single article of the United Nations 1948 Genocide Convention. The report notes a harrowing number of human rights violations, citing evidence of mass deaths, targeted death sentences, forced sterilizations, torture, and other cruel treatment of the Uyghur community. Despite the availability of the evidence, the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, has adamantly rejected the accusation of committing atrocities against the Uighur Muslim minority. On March 8th, Wang Yi, China's foreign minister, labeled the claims of genocide in Xinjiang as preposterous and a fabricated rumor to damage China's reputation. China's premier, Li Keqiang, joined a press conference on March 12th to address the ongoing controversy. Nonetheless, the press meeting only allowed questions that were vetted ahead of time.
Hey guys, before we get back to that video, YouTube has fully demonetized our channel for supposedly hateful and harmful conduct, without telling us what we did wrong. If we get to 1,000 patrons, we will be able to keep paying all our team, our editors, our artists, without ever having to worry about monetization again, which would be amazing. Yay! So please support Atheist Republic on Patreon. Link in the description below.
Wait, how legitimate are the people who are doing this report?
Let me pull up the article just a second.
It's the think tank. I'm trying to see.
Anything. Yeah. I'm not. I know this is true. I just want to make sure that we don't just give people a report that could be just like any group of people could get together and call themselves a think tank.
It's called the New Lines Institute for Strategy and Policy.
All right, you guys go do your own research on how reputable and how legit they are. I haven't seen their reports, but I have seen many other reports, independent reports that... Here's the thing. I've already seen reports that shows that this is one of the greatest human rights violations of our lifetime, okay? Whether it's a genocide or not, I have been told, based on what passes as a definition of a genocide, this is genocide. Okay, by some other sources as well. I don't know about this source. To me, as a utilitarian, in some senses, it doesn't matter if it passes as a genocide, as the definition of a genocide, and in some sense, it does. The reason why it doesn't, to me, the level of harm to such a high number of people, the amount of misery that China is causing to these people, it's already horrible enough that I think it should get the whole world united into stopping this, whether if it technically is defined as genocide or not. So to me, in some part of me think it doesn't matter. This is horrible and it should be stopped. Whether who cares what you call it, right? But another side of me, again, this is also utilitarian, knows that international law treats crimes against humanity that pass the label of genocide a lot differently, a lot more aggressively. And it's not just international laws, it's also a lot of private organizations, because a lot of these free countries cannot force private organizations to deal with China or not to deal with China. But private institutions are going to be a lot more under pressure to dealing with Chinese companies or the CCP if this gets labeled as a genocide. So even if it's not a genocide, I hope it gets labeled as a genocide so that people do take action, move against this a lot more aggressively. However, a lot of people who I do trust say, again, this is legal mumbo jumbo. They say based on those legal definition, this does pass as the label of the genocide. However, I just want to say, like, just because we're talking about whether or not this passes the definition of genocide or not, shouldn't make us distract us from just focusing, like, even if it didn't, this is the greatest one of the greatest human rights violations of our lifetime. Like, I think, like, the top human rights violation of our lifetime right now is what's happening in Yemen, right? And that doesn't pass the definition of genocide. So are we not going to pay attention to that, even though there is a lot of misery happening there, just because it doesn't pass the definition of a genocide? Unfortunately, it seems like so. Anyways, Rivka had her hands up and I didn't talk.
Yeah, so I just want to address your question about who these people are that issued the report. The New Lines Institute for Strategy and Policy used to be called the Center for Global Policy, and it's actually a division of Fairfax University of the Americas. And according to this, it was founded in 2019. Now, I don't know if the Institute, which used to be the Global Policy, was what was founded in 2019, or the entire thing by Ahmed Alawani, who's also the president. And it talks about their mission is to provoke principled transformative leadership based on security, peace, global communities, character, stewardship, and development. And also to shape U.S. foreign policy based on a deep understanding of regional geopolitics and value systems of those regions. So that's who those people are who wrote the report.
It's so interesting to me because I have the people in the live chat talking about this being fake. I did a quick browse on some of the sources that are saying this is fake. Or there are apparently lawsuits now being filed against one of the key researchers behind a lot of the evidences, especially in terms of the declining birth rates and forced sterilizations. It's all state-run media.
Right.
Like, what?
No, exactly. Like,
and they're using some of the Chinese own documentation.
Right.
So it's not like they did their own counts or documentation. This is their documentation.
Yeah, it's funny because somebody in the live chat said, "Oh my God, this is not genocide. These are lies." Like, this is according to the CCP, based on CCP source, leaked CCP sources themselves, leaked, and also the public ones available that weren't even meant to be leaked. This is genocide based on what the CCP says itself. And I want to also address this comment here. Somebody saying, according to Biden, it's just different cultural norms. We did a stream on that, and we really criticized Biden for that language, for the way that he addressed this issue. However, I do have to say that as bad as Biden's language has been on this, his administration has performed better than we expected on the China issue. So far, it could go bad, right? So Biden's language on China is weak and pathetic, but his administration, especially Antony Blinken, and this recent, like, Antony Blinken has been really good, both with the pressure he's putting on Iran, the pressure he's putting on Saudi Arabia, and now the way he's talking about China, and also taking some real measures and bringing back United States allies. Going back to the tradition, it's pretty. So again, I know it might change and we might criticize United States foreign policy going forward, but so far, as much as disgusting as Biden's language was on this whole issue, the people he has picked are doing different stands than his language seems like. Again, like, we could call out the wording and the way he's phrased things, but actions speak louder than words, and actions seem to be better than I expected. But yeah, Sus.
I mean, there has been some statements by people within his administration that I don't think were good. Like, I think it could be better. I have the report in front of me if we want to briefly look through the executive summary, which would detail exactly what are the criteria that it meets the Convention of Genocide. specifically intent to destroy. Article 2 of the Genocide Convention requires the intent to destroy. So they've met that standard. High-level statements of intent and general plan. In 2014, China's head of state, President Xi Jinping, launched the People's War on Terror in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, making the areas where Uyghur constitute nearly 90% of the population's the front line. High-level officials followed up with orders to round up everyone who should be rounded up, wipe them out completely, destroy them root and branch, break their lineage, break their roots, break their connections, break their origins, end quote.
Wow.
Officials described Uyghurs with dehumanizing terms and repeatedly likened the mass internment of Uyghurs to eradicating tumors. Then there's also comprehensive policy, pattern of conduct, and repeated destructive acts, such as government-mandated homestays, mass internment, mass birth prevention strategy, forcible transfer of Uyghur children to state-run facilities, eradication of Uyghur identity, community, and domestic life, selective targeting of intellectuals and community leaders. And yes, I'll just keep it at that for right now.
And the language. I always bring this up
Yes.
because not letting people speak their language is purposeful way to destroy culture or ethnicity, because a lot of these groups have certain concepts that are related to the language that they use or the words they use to describe that. So once you eradicate that language, you kind of eradicate those ideas amongst people. But I checked this because I wanted to make sure. But when you were talking about Anthony Blinken, I thought that I was right about this, and I checked. So I thought it was his father, but it's actually his stepfather, who's a Holocaust survivor. And he credits him with a lot of his desire to be in public service because his stepfather was with Kennedy. And so I think that, and I don't know, like maybe I'm extrapolating, but he does talk about the effect that this man had on his life and this man's life. The fact that he is out there advocating in a way to help, people who are being marginalized or their human rights are violated. It's kind of interesting to me because he does talk a lot about how his Holocaust survivor stepfather made such an impact on him.
Yeah, and also CCP does use fringe acts of terror by some groups within the Uyghur to do collective punishment on the entire population, right? So there are like a very few groups of people there that have committed some radical attacks in China. But again, this is always goes back to what we were saying earlier. Every time something like this happens, the governments try to step in and use the fear and the demand for the anger and the fear and the demand for protection and the demand for revenge as an excuse to commit such mass human rights violations. And I don't think anybody has done that to the extreme that the CCP has. We don't have a bigger example of this, right?
And it's so obvious too. So someone sent me basically a state-made documentary about terror in Xinjiang, like propaganda. I don't know if they knew that it was propaganda because they're like, watch this to learn more about the background behind this. Well, this is the state's version of these actions and their success in these policies. And you watch the media that they put out, and it's very explicit that this is like a collective thing. Someone is saying, wait, where did it go? Shoot. Someone said that this is worse than Auschwitz.
No. No.
Okay.
No. I wasn't saying you to you. I mean, it's not worse than that.
Well, I was going to say it is certainly more technologically advanced.
Yeah, but guys, come on. It's not as bad as that. Come on.
There's a lot of things we don't know.
Yeah, but guys, we're talking about
they're gassing them or heating them into ovens.
Guys. It's not even close. Okay, this is the worst, one of the worst human rights violations of our lifetime. But it doesn't give even don't you can, I'm not saying don't compare things, because you can compare things and say like, well, yeah, that was a lot worse, but that one was like 9 million people gas in gas chambers. 9 million. We're now talking about in China again. I'm not trying to say that this is not bad what's happening in China, all right? This is really bad, but we're talking about 2 million people in camps. But when it comes to what Auschwitz, we're talking about 9 million people put to death. It's like that, it's not the same. Okay. Again, I hate saying this because it seems like I'm dismissing how horrible is what's happening in China.
No,
But
you're
yeah.
not. And if you look, I mean, the things that are happening in China are horrific, and they are trying to, merge these people in, to Han society and get rid of their culture, their language, their religious practices. But even just looking at the CCP footage of the camps that they're in, the conditions are 1,000 times better than the conditions.
Yeah.
Just the roof over their head or the beds. So I hate to do it too.
Yeah.
But it's also this, it wasn't just Auschwitz. I mean, these were camps spread across massive amounts of countries that, so yeah, it's bad and it should be fought against, and you should, condemn it. But I don't think it's necessarily the same.
Yeah,
fruit.
It's not. I agree, and thank you for Toka who said that. Say, oh, I apologize for my. No, it's okay. If you had if you had information that you thought that was correct, and now you think, oh, okay, so there's nothing wrong about having the wrong information and then getting the right information, and they'd be like, oh, okay, this is the correct information. It's not insensitive. You're just like informing yourself, right?
Hey guys, if you're a fan of blasphemy and sexy Kali, like me, then that means that you probably want more blasphemous art. Well, I have good news for you. If you subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below, then you get a free booklet of some of the tastiest blasphemous art available today. So, if you want some of this delicious blasphemy, and we're so generous that we update it for you guys weekly for free, all you have to do is sign up for our newsletter below. You can also go to blasphemousart.com/ebook. That's blasphemousart.com/ebook. Sign up with your email, and you get free gifts of this tasty blasphemy. What could be better? So make sure you sign up. Link below.